The year 2022 is over, and now we're hitting hard in 2023. In the next couple of weeks, we'll see the beautiful Tata Steel chess event, which will be a brilliant tournament for us to watch. It will be a classical time format event, and I think we'll see a really great tactical battles between top grandmasters. And although the year 2022 was a brilliant year, still I think it was a year that was marked by the chess drama that was going on between Hans Niemann and Magnus Carlsen. And I think one specific game added also a little bit fuel to the fire. It was a blitz game between Hikaru Nakamura and Hans Niemann on chess.com. It was one of the last games that Hans Niemann played on chess.com. Afterwards he got banned on this chess website, but here he really destroyed Hikaru in a brutal tactical way. And in this game here, Hans Niemann played without inaccuracies, mistakes or blunders. Really great performance by Hans. He really played a beautiful isolated pawn game, and for those who have maybe problems to find good strategies with the isolated pawn, this was a perfect example how to play this kind of a middle game. So let's see now the game. Hikaru Nakamura versus Hans Niemann. Be prepared. This was simply sick brutal tactics that here Hans Niemann played. So Hikaru Nakamura opened with the move knight to f3. Hans' response was d5. We have now the move e3, the Zukertort opening, and after move knight to f6, Hikaru hits the center with the move c4. Here Hans protects this pawn with the move e6. We have now the move knight to c3, and after move c5 we have c takes d5, and after e takes d5 now comes a very important move here by Hikaru, d4. The idea about this kind of a move order that Hikaru played here is to leave here Hans Niemann with an isolated pawn. If you take, of course, c takes d4, then the knight will take. Still you're left with an isolated pawn on d5. So that's why here after move d4, Hans kept the tension in the center of the board, plays now simply knight to c6. Here Hikaru goes bishop to b5, hits simply the knight. We have c takes d4, and after knight to d4, okay, Hans is left now with an isolated pawn, but still he has this defensive resource with bishop to d7, and now he's protecting his knight twice. From white's perspective, you should not take, of course, the knight on c6, because after b takes c6, you have to retreat to d3 or e2, it doesn't matter. But in the next couple of moves, I think Black will build a beautiful attacking formation. Black will build this idea: bishop to d6, queen to e7, kingside castling, rook to b8, knight to e4 if possible. So surely but slowly, I think Black can really have a good formation. Will have a great attack against the potential kingside castling, because we have to know this also. The knight was traded off here on c6. You don't have so many defenders in front of the king. So that's why after move bishop to d7, here Hikaru simply castles, bishop to d6, now knight to f3, hitting the pawn on d5 again, here by Hikaru Nakamura. a6, we have bishop to e2, and now bishop to e6, protecting simply this isolated pawn. As I said, when you have an isolated pawn, your basic strategic goal is to advance the pawn. You're trying to get somehow the d4 goal work. It's of course not possible immediately, because Hikaru has a great grip around the square d4, but if possible you should do it. Whenever you have the opportunity to push the pawn on d4, do it. On the other hand, white's strategic goal is to create a blockade around the square d4, is trying to keep the position around the square compact. If you, for instance, in this position play knight to g5, if you're trying to hit the bishop here on e6, it doesn't matter. I think black can even ignore the threat, because after knight to e6, f takes e6, I think suddenly again black is building a good formation here. You can advance the pawn, then afterwards to e5 if possible, maybe e4. Look at this bishop is targeting the h2. The rook can maybe come into the game with rook to f6, rook to h6. So I would really not love to play any more this game from white's perspective. I think the powerful center that black has gained now could bother white in the continuation of the game. So that's why after move bishop to e6, we have now b3 by Hikaru, kingside castling, bishop to b2, and now queen to e2, simply connecting the rooks, and of course trying to get one of these rooks on the d file, where it could protect again the isolated pawn on d5. So here rook to c1, normal development by Hikaru, rook to d8, we have knight to d4, and now bishop to d7. Here again Hans Niemann is keeping the tension in the center of the board. We have now knight takes c6 by Hikaru, and after bishop to c6, you don't want to actually take here with the move b takes c6. The problem is not actually that you lose this pawn on a6. That's not the issue, because if you do this from white's perspective, then you get the Greek gift. Look at this, bishop to h2 is going to happen, and now with knight to g5, knight to g4, pardon me, you get getting destroyed on the H file. So that's why it's very important to keep here the bishop on this diagonal where the knight cannot jump on G4. And as I said, it's not the problem that you lose the pawn on A6. Actually, the goal of whites in this particular scenario would be to get the knight on A4, to paralyze your queen side, to create new opportunities against your backward pawn on C6. Now afterwards, maybe bishop to D4, hitting further the position. So it will be, I think, very hard for black to protect this backward pawn on C6. So that's why after move knight to C6, Hans took with the bishop to C6, knight to B1 by Hikaru, bishop to E5, bishop to A3, bishop to D6, and now after bishop to D6, rook to D6. Here I think, again, slowly but surely, Hans-Moke Niemann is getting his goal. He wants to just advance the isolated pawn. He's trying now ideas of rook to D8 and finally break and enter with the move D4. Here Hikaru plays queen to D4, knight to E4, knight to C3, and now beautiful maneuver here by Hans-Moke Niemann. He's getting the knight on G5 and he's trying now to get the knight on E6, kicking away the queen and again get his goal D4. D4, D4, D4. That's the only goal here with the isolated pawn. So here in the continuation, rook to D1, we have now this idea knight to E6, and now comes the first inaccuracy, mistake, or blunder, you can call it whatever you like, but it's now really the critical moment of the game. Here Hikaru has to play now the move queen to E5, at least paralyzing a little bit the knight. Maybe then queen could be kicked away, but now after queen to G3, okay, maybe you can get your D4 goal, but at least you have weakened a little bit your pawn structure here in front of the king. At least the black king is a little bit endangered. But what Hikaru did, he played the queen on B4 here, where the queen is lined up with the queen on E7. And maybe you can pause the video and try to see now the best continuation here for black. It's, as I said, one inaccuracy, mistake, or blunder, and the game is basically over. Here Hans-Moke Niemann realized the tactical tensions on the dark square diagonal and he played a really beautiful tactical shot. So maybe you can pause the video and try to see now here the best continuation. So okay, as I said, D4, 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 that's now the main goal. Here Hans plays the move D4. Although this pawn is 3 times attacked by the activity of whites, but still it's really hard to play the game. Let's see possible continuations. In the game, E takes D4 was Hikaru Nakamura's continuation, but if you play, for instance, something like knight to B1, if you try to retreat, the problem is now this tactic. This is brutal. Bishop to G2, look at this. If you play now king to G2, knight to F4, the king has to step back, or you could take out the knight, but if you take out the knight, you get this stunner. Rook to G3, discovered attack, double attack against the king and the queen, and the game is basically over. Okay, in this scenario, you could maybe escape with the king on F1, but now with the move queen to E4, again, there are several tactical threats. You have to play F3, we pick up here the pawn, you have to bring now the queen into defense, but now again with queen to E5, queen to G5, I think you will lose simply the battle. Also the rook can afterwards come here on G6, so the game is basically over here for white. So that's why after move D4, here E takes D4 was played by Hikaru Nakamura, but now a beautiful stunner, knight takes D4, and look at this, what happens. You can maybe try again this idea, rook to D4. This could be an opportunity, but this wasn't played here by Hikaru Nakamura, but now you get this stunner, queen to G5, double attack, and also a serious threat here to deliver checkmate. You can maybe prolong the game by playing the move knight to D5. We just pick up the knight, you can pick up here the bishop, but now we pick up simply the rook, and this should be over. We can play now maybe this one. Now we just advance the pawn, and we're having here from black's perspective a situation where we up the exchange, so the game should be over. So instead of this move rook to D4, what you could do is maybe to play the move bishop to F1. Maybe you're trying to retreat, but now comes a new stunner. Really great tactical game here by Hans-Moke Niemann. This wasn't played in the game, but I wanted to show really this immortal threats that were possible in the game. After bishop to F1, now you get this one, knight to F3. If you play again G takes F3, you get again this stunner, rook to G3, and again the queen is hanging. If you ignore the threat, if you play king to H1, again rook to H6, threatens checkmate on H2, and you will lose also the queen again here on B4. So really dirty tactics. So that's why after move knight to D4, you see rook to D4 is not working because of queen to G5. Hikaru tried bishop to G4, but now again the similar motif, knight to F3. If you play here bishop to F3, for instance, in this particular game, then you get rook takes D1 again, it comes with a check, and you lose the queen. If you play something else, if you play here g takes f3, again the same tactical shot will happen, so the game is over. This discover attack with knight to f3 cost here Hikaru Nakamura the game, so in this particular position Hikaru resigns. So incredible game. You see the power and also the disadvantages of the isolated pawn. Okay, to one particular moment, Hikaru had a slight edge because he created the isolated pawn, but when the time came, Hans and Niemann realized his possibility to advance the isolated pawn, destroyed here Hikaru Nakamura in a beautiful tactical game, and won this beautiful blitz game. So, okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas of the isolated pawn structure in the center of the board. Really dirty tactics here that Hans and Niemann prepared. If you want to see more brutal tactics like this, check out my best chess games of all time series with some other immortal games that have been played in the past. Here's the link of our playlist, and if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.